Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle Wellbeing. I'm your host Jim, and welcome back to the channel, everyone. In our previous discussion, we began to scratch the surface of a deeply important and often overlooked aspect of professional wrestling, which is mental health. Now, if you've seen my previous video where I interviewed the lovely and very talented Drew Ashlin, who spoke in depth about her journey in professional wrestling, but also the battles that she's faced in regards to her mental health. If you haven't watched that yet, I'll put the link in the description down below. Pause this, go watch the interview with Drew, then come back and watch this, because this video is kind of going to link in with that video, because today we're going to be talking about mental health from the perspective in wrestling from the view of a professional wrestler. So tonight we're going to be diving much deeper, aiming to truly understand the unique pressures and the very real battles fought outside the bright lights of the ring. The athletic feats, the captivating characters, the adrenaline-fueled performances, these are what draw millions of fans to professional wrestling every week. But behind the spectacle, these people are still humans. The human beings facing extraordinary circumstances that can significantly impact their mental well-being. We're going to focus those circumstances and most importantly, acknowledge the courage for those who have shared their own struggles. This is going to be a conversation that deserves time and nuance. So settle in as we unpack the hidden battles within professional wrestling. Just want to put some quick disclaimer out there. What we're going to be talking about today may impact quite a lot of people personally. It may hit quite close to home for a couple of people that are watching. So if at any point you do find yourself becoming upset at the video, I do understand if you want to click off, but I would rather that you stay, just because then we can all hopefully get a better grip and a better understanding, should I say, on what people say online, what people say in person, and also the messaging about these professional wrestlers, because at the end of the day, they're still human beings and we all have struggles. So enough rattling on, let's get into it. So to truly grasp the mental health landscape in professional wrestling, we need to dissect the multifaceted pressures that these athletes face daily. First, the brutal physical toll. The physical demands of professional wrestling are astronomical. Unlike traditional sports with off seasons such as football, American football, hockey, gymnastics, all of the others, many professional wrestlers maintain a grueling schedule year-round. Studies have shown that the impact of high-impact maneuvers and repetitive trauma can lead to chronic pain, concussions, and long-term physical ailments like arthritis and spinal issues. For example, I believe a couple of years ago when they did the Total Bellas reality TV show series, that Nikki Bella actually spoke about going to see a doctor who actually stated that every single time that a professional wrestler hits the mat, it's like putting their body through a car crash. This constant physical discomfort isn't just a bodily burden, it can significantly impact mental health too, often contributing to depression, anxiety, and majority of the time, substance abuse as individuals seek relief. For example, I want to look at Bret Hart. His career was tragically cut short due to a severe concussion. In his autobiography, he openly discussed the profound impact this had on his mental health. Frustration, the loss of identity, and the struggle to cope with a body that could no longer perform at a high level. Many wrestlers have spoken about the bumps they take, the controlled falls that accumulate over the years. These seemingly routine actions can lead to micro trauma that builds up, causing persistent pain and affecting mood and overall quality of life. Consider the countless stories of wrestlers needing multiple surgeries just to function in daily life after their careers, and the mental toll that recovery and limitations can take. Point 2. The isolation of the road. The travel schedule for professional wrestlers is relentless. Imagine being on the road for 200 to 300 days a year, away from your family, friends, and the comforts of your home. This constant displacement can lead to profound feelings of isolation and loneliness. Maintaining meaningful relationships become incredibly challenging, and the lack of stable routine can disrupt sleep patterns, and overall well-being. If you want a prime example of that, I suggest you go watch Fighting with My Family, which is the film directed by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on the life of Paige or Saraya. Studies on individuals in professions with extensive travel, such as long-haul lorry drivers, have shown higher rates of depression and anxiety, often linked to social isolation and disruptive circadian rhythms. Wrestlers face similar, if not more intense, travel demands, going from one state to the other, going across country, and then also to foreign countries in the space of a couple of days. Many wrestlers have spoken anecdotally about the difficulty of missing significant life events such as birthdays, anniversaries, children's milestones due to their touring schedule. Noted so by Randy Orton in a recent interview about the contrast working for Vince compared to Triple H. This constant sacrifice can lead to feelings of guilt, resentment, and a disconnect from their personal lives, impacting their mental state. The boys in the back camaraderie can be a support system, but it can also be transient as the roster changes. The lack of consistent, deep personal connections outside the ring can exacerbate feelings of loneliness when on the road. Point number 3, the pressure to perform and also protecting the gimmick. The pressure to constantly perform, to entertain, and to maintain a believable character, often blurring the lines between their real life selves and their on-screen personas, is immense. The fear of losing their spot, of not connecting with the audience, or of a storyline change impacting their career can create significant anxiety. Consider Jake the Snake Roberts. While his character was a master of psychological manipulation, Roberts himself has been incredibly open about his long battles with addiction and the internal turmoil he faced while portraying such a dark and intense persona. The constant need to embody that darkness likely took a significant mental toll. If you want to see that, I recommend watching The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, the documentary on Jake the Snake Roberts. Also, with someone playing such a dark character, I also want to look at something outside of wrestling, which is the Dark Knight Batman film. Obviously, as we know, the person that played the Joker Heath Ledger committed suicide shortly after the film was released, because it was quoted that the amount of pressure that it put on himself and the amount of work that it put into the character itself led him down a very dark hole from which he never came back. The advent of social media has added another layer of pressure. Wrestlers are now constantly under scrutiny, expected to maintain their character to some extent online and face immediate fan reaction, both positive and negative. This constant feedback loop can amplify anxieties and insecurities. Moving on next to the manifestation of struggle. Given these intense and unique pressures, it's perhaps not surprising that professional wrestlers can be particularly vulnerable to a range of mental health challenges. Now to point one of this section, the crushing weight of depression and anxiety. The combination of physical pain, isolation, inconsistent schedules, and the constant pressure to perform can create a perfect storm of depression and anxiety. The uncertainty of contracts, the fear of injury derailing their career, and the emotional fallout from wins and losses can all contribute. I'd like to look at the example of Scott Hall, also known as Razor Ramon. Rest in peace to Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, who was incredibly candid about his struggles with depression and addiction. He spoke openly about the loneliness and the internal battles he faced, despite the charismatic persona he portrayed on screen. His story highlights the contrast between the outward appearance and the inner turmoil. In a lot of ways, normal everyday people do the same thing. Inside, their anxiety, their depression, or their addiction, whatever that may be, is boiling over. But on the outside, they put on a fake smile, put on a fake facade of being okay. Many wrestlers have spoken about the post-show blues, the feeling of emptiness and letdown after the adrenaline of the performance fades. Maybe that they could have had a botch or made a mistake in a match. Might be that someone has got injured because they may have made a mistake with a move or something like that. I want to make the example of Ridge Holland after the incident with Big E last year, where Big E has openly come out and blamed himself for what happened, where he broke his neck. It was because he didn't tuck it himself in enough when he jumped over for the belly-to-belly suplex. But online, a lot of people have given Ridge Holland a very, very hard time, throwing a lot of death threats towards him, throwing a lot of hate towards him, which in today's world, guys, it's just not needed whatsoever. It's not needed, it's not wanted, it's not good, it's not nice at all. People think that because they're behind a screen, that they're behind a profile photo, that they're behind a firewall or whatever it is they're using, behind a phone, a laptop, a tablet, a computer, whatever it is they're using, they think that they are untouchable. They think that they are invincible and whatever they say is okay to say. But it isn't. We need to be more mindful of what we're saying online. We need to be more mindful of what content people are posting online. and what comments people are making online. At the end of the day, these are still people. They're still human beings that have feelings, they have families, they have loved ones. Do you really think that these sort of people want to go home after working so hard, being away from their families, to then have someone online send them death threats, send them hateful, nasty comments because they made a mistake, or because the person that's sending the hate doesn't actually know the full extent of the story? We need to be better. We need to be together. We need to form a better community. Going on to point 2 now, the dangerous path of substance use and abuse. Historically and tragically, continuing to be a concern is substance use. It's been a maladaptive coping mechanism for some wrestlers dealing with chronic pain, stress, and the pressures of the lifestyle. The culture of the industry, particularly in past eras, sometimes inadvertently contributed to this. While specific statistics are difficult to obtain due to privacy concerns, numerous wrestlers have publicly shared their battles with addiction, highlighting the prevalence of this issue within the industry. Organisations like the Professional Wrestlers Association have aimed to address this through the story and education. For example, I want to quote the story of Eddie Guerrero. While complex, tragically involved battles with addiction, as we know. His immense talent and charisma were often overshadowed by his personal struggles, highlighting the devastating impact substance abuse can have on an individual and their career, but also their family. Many wrestlers who have overcome addiction have spoken about how it began as a way to manage pain from injuries or to self-medicate for underlying anxiety and depression, underscoring the interconnectedness of physical and mental health. For example, Kurt Angle, when he went from WWE to TNA, he suffered really badly with neck and back issues, to which he became addicted to painkillers. Going on to point 3, the crisis of identity and transition. For many wrestlers, their identity is so deeply intertwined with their wrestling persona, it's not just a job, it is a way of life. Often consuming their entire being for years, when their in-ring career ends, whether due to injury or retirement, the loss of this identity can be devastating, leading to feelings of worthlessness and a lack of purpose. Diamond Dallas Page, DDP, has been a vocal advocate for mental and physical wellness in retirement. He's worked with numerous wrestlers who struggled with the transition out of the ring, often dealing with depression and a loss of identity after the constant attention and adrenaline of performing disappeared. He's also worked with quite a lot of superstars, ex-wrestlers outside of the ring during his retirement to help them get back to a better physical condition, such as Scott Hall, most famously Butterbean, who couldn't even stand up without the aid of crutches and couldn't even stand up straight. And most recently, as we saw in the WWE Hall of Fame, Lex Luger has been able to walk again, a true miracle of the human body. Consider wrestlers who spent decades honing their craft and building their characters, only to find themselves facing a world where their skills and their identity are no longer the central focus of their lives. This sudden shift can be incredibly disorientating and emotionally challenging. We'll move on next to the courage to speak, voices of change. Despite the historical stigma surrounding mental health, A growing number of wrestlers are demonstrating incredible courage by sharing their personal battles publicly. Their openness is not only helping to break down these harmful stigmas, but also offering hope and support to others who may be struggling in silence. We've got a few examples. First example is CM Punk. CM Punk has been open about his struggles with anxiety and the pressures of being in the spotlight. His willingness to discuss these challenges, even during his active career, helped to normalize the conversation around mental health in a high-pressure environment. Becky Lynch has spoken about the importance of mental resilience and seeking support. Her journey to the top of the wrestling world hasn't been without its challenges, and her openness about navigating those difficulties, both mental and physical, resonates with many fans. Becca's quote spoke a lot about this in her autobiography. Mick Foley, despite the hardcore persona, has always been a thoughtful and articulate voice. He has discussed the emotional toll of his career and the importance of seeking help, particularly in navigating the transition after retirement. Finally, the last two examples. First is The Miz and Maryse. While perhaps not always focusing on deep struggles, their public discussions about managing the pressures of fame and maintaining a healthy family life while in the wrestling industry offer a glimpse into the everyday stresses that can impact mental well-being. I believe that they spoke about this on their TV show Miz and Mrs. And finally, Rhea Ripley, who, as we know, the other year at WrestleMania 40 was shown to have had an anxiety attack in the behind-the-scenes footage from WrestleMania 40 before her World Championship match against Becky Lynch. This just shows that even these larger-than-life, almost godlike people are still people, and they still have these mental problems and mental battles. Progress and persistent challenges. While the increased willingness to talk about mental health is a significant step forward, it's crucial to acknowledge that the journey towards a truly supportive and destigmatized environment within professional wrestling is ongoing. We're seeing more wrestlers advocate for mental health awareness on social media and through various platforms. Some promotions are beginning to incorporate mental wellness resources or partnerships with mental health organizations. The conversation among fans is also evolving with a greater understanding and empathy for the performers that are struggling. However, the inherent pressures of the industry, the demanding travel, the physical toll, the constant need to perform are systematic and not easily eradicated. Stigma, while decreasing, still exists within some corners of the wrestling world, potentially preventing individuals from seeking help. Access to comprehensive and affordable mental health resources may still be limited for some performers, particularly those on independent circuits. The tough image, often associated with professional wrestling, can also make it difficult for some to acknowledge vulnerability and seek help. The financial instability that can plague wrestlers, especially early in their careers or after leaving major promotions, can also be a significant source of stress and anxiety. Our role in fostering change. As fans, we have a significant role to play in fostering a more supportive and understanding environment for these athletes who provide us with so much entertainment. Let's actively choose empathy and respect in our online interactions. Remember that behind the character is still a human being, with their own struggles and vulnerabilities. Avoid perpetuating negativity and engaging in personal attacks. I've already spoken about it, but there's been a lot of attacks on Ridge Holland. There still is to this day. There's also still attacks on Nia Jax for the way that she used to perform whilst under Vince McMahon. But at the end of the day, these are still people. Support wrestlers not just for their on-screen personas, but also for their well-being. Acknowledge their courage when they share personal struggles. Educate ourselves about mental health and challenge any stigmas we encounter within the wrestling community. Also, be mindful of the intense pressures these individuals are under and avoid making assumptions about their personal lives. For those who aspire to enter the world of professional wrestling, please prioritize your mental health from the very beginning. Build a strong support system outside of the industry. Learn healthy coping mechanisms for stress and isolation. Understand that seeking help is a sign of strength and not weakness, and there are resources available. Mental health in professional wrestling is a complex and multifaceted issue, shaped by unique pressures and challenges. While progress is being made with more individuals bravely sharing their stories and a growing awareness within the community, there is still so much work to be done. By fostering a culture of empathy, understanding, and open dialogue, we can help us ensure that these incredible athletes not only thrive in the ring, but also lead healthy and fulfilling lives outside of the ring. Let's continue to break the stigma surrounding mental health in professional wrestling. Let's support those who have the courage to speak out, and let's work together to create a more compassionate and supportive environment for everyone involved. Thank you so much for joining me for this important discussion. I really want you guys to share your thoughts and also any resources you can in the comments below. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help. Resources are always available, such as the Mind Charity. You have the Samaritans as well. And in the UK over here, we have what's called Andy's Man Club. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share this video to help spread awareness. Until next time, take care, guys. Look after each other, look after yourselves, and let's make a better community for everyone.